Have you heard of the Akashic Records? Do you know what they are? That's what we're about to discuss, so be sure to stay tuned.
Okay, this story is about Mary Magdalene, the prostitute. However, if you notice, our introduction had to do with the Akashic Records.
Correct?
So someone listening to this story will be like, wait a minute, what does it have to do with the Akashic Records? We'll get to that in a moment. Just be patient. But I'm sure you've heard the story of Mary Magdalene, right?
I have heard it.
What do you know about Mary Magdalene?
Well, I know Mary Magdalene was a follower of Jesus, and she only started following him after he cast demons out from her. But she was a very affluent individual, and she spent her time very close with Jesus because she chose to.
That's, is that,
That's Mary Magdalene. Now, there are some other Marys and
uh-huh.
individuals in the Bible that are confused, and they kind of just grouped them all together. But they finally started to clear it up
Who grouped them
recently.
together?
These were bishops of the church,
What
of
church?
the Christian church, back in the way back in the
Oh, okay.
hundreds.
Okay.
Yes.
Please proceed.
Okay, so you have Mary Magdalene, who I just talked about. Then there was Mary, the sister of Lazarus.
I remember her.
Okay. Then there was a nameless prostitute, and she's the one who washed the feet of Jesus and wiped his feet with her hair.
A nameless
A
prostitute?
nameless prostitute. She has no name.
I thought that was Mary Magdalene.
Nope, it's not Mary Magdalene. That's what the church has been trying to clear up for like maybe the past 60, 70 years.
Okay.
And then there's this story in the Bible about the adulterous woman.
Wait a minute. That's a different person?
A different person. None
Okay.
of them. Mary
Let's keep
Magdalene
going.
didn't have anything to do with these other women, but over time, the stories all got muddled together, and it turns out that people believe this to be the story of Mary Magdalene.
Well, you know how it goes. Back then, it was a male-dominated world. So who really cared what the women looked like? And I'm not trying to be funny, but you know
Right.
that's what happened.
Right. Women had very little significance,
Exactly.
you know.
So that they didn't care if they were messing up somebody's
Reputation.
She's a woman. Who cares? You know. Now, years later, the Catholic Church is like, you know what? There was a mistake. We'd like to fix it. Thank God they've come out to try to fix it.
Indeed.
Anyway, so thanks for explaining some of that, but we'll still continue with the story.
Yes.
And we'll pretend that it's Mary Magdalene.
Okay,
Because
that
that's what the
sounds
Bible
great.
says. That's okay. All right.
Well, that's how the church has always explained it. But yes, let's
Right.
continue.
So here we are, right? Here's Jesus. And if you notice, there's this mob of men standing behind him.
Correct.
What do you think is going on? I actually see that guy with a stone. Look at that. There's a
Oh
stone
yes,
right
they've
there.
got
Yes,
stones
yeah.
there. But what was going on was the leaders of the church back then, the Jewish church, were trying to set Jesus up, and what they did was they
Is
pulled.
that in the Bible?
Yes.
About they're trying to set him up?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. And so that the high priest took this woman who had been found in an adulterating affair here, and they were bringing her to be stoned.
Because that was the law back then.
Yes, but the actual law stated that the adulterers, the man and woman, were to be stoned together for their sins.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Which is partly why they were setting Jesus up, because they had separated them and were only accusing the woman.
Going back to a male-dominated world.
Yes.
Okay. So then Jesus decides.
Well, what happened was they started to tell Jesus, this is our law. The priests gathered around him and said, the Jewish law. It says that we are to stone an adulterer, and that's what we're going to do. What do you say?
Now, why do you think they would say that? Stress to him that you know the law. This is our law. Why do you think they would do that?
Because they wanted to see if he was going to defy them and say, no, you should not be stoning this woman. And, or he would say, yes, go ahead and stone her for her sins.
Well, the bottom line is that because what he was preaching did not correlate with their beliefs. Remember that?
Yes.
Right? He was seen as a rebel. So they were very sure that he didn't know their law, first of all.
Mm-hmm.
And so, of course, whatever he did was going to be wrong.
Exactly.
Right? Because he didn't know. This guy just comes up with his own. They probably saw it as that. This guy just comes up with his own rules. You know, making up things as he goes along.
Indeed.
Just creating problems for our community. So then here we are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus decides to just, I guess, bend over or whatever it is, but he decided to just start writing in the sand. Now, here's what I find interesting.
Yes.
In the Bible, it stated that Jesus wrote in the sand.
Yes.
And then, as he was writing in the sand, he said, not verbatim, right? But then he said,
you who have not sinned, cast the first stone.
And then what happened?
Well, I could go into a joke at this point, but I'll continue with the story. Men started to leave. People in the crowd started to disperse.
What joke could you go into?
I could say, well, immediately a small pebble came over the crowd. And Jesus looked around, didn't see anything, and then a larger stone came. And then finally, almost a boulder came over the crowd. And Jesus stood up and he looked around and he finally yelled, "Mother, I didn't mean you."
That's just really bad. Just bad jokes.
Okay. That was from my early Catholic years. Okay.
I've never heard that joke.
Oh, yes, it's hilarious.
That's not even a joke. That's just really bad. But anyway, so have you ever wondered why would the people start walking away? They were angry. They were ready to stone her to death. He writes in the sand and he says, if you've never sinned, then stone her. Go ahead and throw a stone on her.
Yes.
So why would they walk away?
Yes. Well, what I was taught in church.
Oh, in church.
Yes. Okay. Is that it could have been one of two things. One, Jesus was writing something in the sand that was affecting all of them.
Okay.
And then secondly, it was because the prostitute was naked and they didn't want to continue being around that. And that's why Jesus was writing in the sand to begin with.
They were there the whole time anyway. So what? She was naked the whole time.
That's just what the priest told us from the pulpit.
I don't get that one. First of all, the next thing is that about Jesus writing in the sand because the lady was naked.
Right, to take his eyes, to divert his eyes from her.
So he wouldn't see her body.
Exactly.
Okay, I don't buy that either, though. I don't think Jesus is that easily tempted by something like that.
So what was he writing in the sand?
According to the teachings, what Jesus was doing was he was writing into the sand the sin or a sin of every person that was in that crowd.
Ooh.
All right. So as he wrote, he was writing a sin for each person. Now, if you know that, would that explain why somebody would walk away?
Yes.
Get it?
Mm-hmm.
Because why would he say, you that has no sin, cast the first stone, and then they start walking away? Why? Just because he's Jesus? No. It's probably because they saw their sin in the sand.
Indeed.
That brings us to the topic. How could Jesus know what their sin is for each individual? Because Jesus was so elevated in knowledge, right? Mm-hmm. He's the Christed one. He could see their Akashic record.
Oh.
So he had already accessed the Akashic records while he's right there, and he's writing out their Akashic record information right there in the sand.
He's writing out exactly what he's being seen, he's seeing, what he's being shown.
Now, wouldn't that scare the daylights out of you?
It would me.
Yeah. So here I am. I'm going to stone this lady to death because of what she did. All of a sudden, Jesus said, you cheated on your wife 5 times.
I wouldn't walk away. I would run. I would bolt out of there.
Yeah? Uh-huh. So what are the Akashic records? Well, the Akashic records are records of every moment of our life in each lifetime that we've lived. Every action that we've taken. Every word that we've said. Everything. That's recorded by what's referred to as the recording angels. Okay? Mm-hmm. That's kept in this hall, this library, if you want to call it, called the Akashic Library. Well, that's how I call it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, this is guarded by angels. And so, for example, if you want to go there, you couldn't just go there, or I couldn't just go there and ask permission to go in. We're not allowed to. You have to have one of the ascended masters or one of the light beings, and the special light beings that are allowed to go with you. They take you. They have to be with you when you enter the Akashic Records or the Hall of Records room. All right?
Yes.
So here we are. After he says, if you don't have any sins, then cast the first stone. What does the guy do?
They probably are wondering, how did you know that?
Exactly, right?
Uh-huh.
He's like, wait a minute. How did you know that? And let's just leave here. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then they took off from there. So here we are. He saved her, whomever she was.
That's right.
And he smiled and said, she's probably saying, well, what made them go away? I wrote their sins in the sand there, okay? Most nameless one. And so they walked away. And that's when he told her, but there's something called this Akashic record. And he probably started explaining to her what it was. If you look there, there's a key. And you literally have to have, that's what we're saying, that you need somebody to, not a somebody, but a being to go with you to enter the records. So for example, when I access the Akashic records on somebody's behalf, I first have to get permission.
Yes.
All right? And Archangel Michael normally gives me permission, but he's not the one that goes with me. He doesn't deal with the Akashic records, actually.
Oh.
So it's a different being that goes with me into the Akashic record room. And then that's when I go and I find the information, or I'm taken. I don't know what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I might just say, well, I want to find out why my wife is afraid of the dark. And then I'm taken to that specific area. And then I'm shown what to open, the book to open. And then I see your life as to what happened, why you're afraid of the dark now. And then that's when I tell you what I see. Once I'm done, it's closed, and then I leave. I come out. But the whole time I'm there, I have to be with this being. You're not allowed to be there by yourself roaming around. That's not how it works.
So you get this information, you give it to me. How does that help someone like me?
You tell me.
Okay, fine, I'll tell you. Well, ever since that was revealed to me about my fear of the dark, I have become less and less afraid of the dark. I can actually walk into a dark room and not feel scared at all. And my husband is amazed by this now.
Yes. Because I used to scare you. I would sneak up behind you and scare you.
Yes.
You'd be screaming.
Even when all the lights are on, he might have been just behind a door and he'd just go boo, and I would scream. It doesn't happen like that anymore.
Yeah.
Thank God.
When I think about it, it was not a very nice thing, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I apologize, sir.
You know what? It made everyone laugh, which is, I guess, productive as well.
Now, about the Akashic Records, there are therapists you can go to, that do past life, because Akashic Records are tied to past lives.
Yes.
If you notice, I said, what made you be afraid of the dark? But what I didn't mention was that by me going to see a record, I'm actually looking at your past lives. What happened in a previous life or a previous embodiment that caused you to be afraid now of the dark. So the Akashic Records is a history of everybody's life, whether it's this life or any previous life. And if you don't believe in it, that's okay, but you still lived before. You don't have to accept it, and that can be proven to you. But there are therapists that they call it past regression.
Yes.
Something like that. And they take somebody back into a previous life, and the person can then tell the therapist what they're experiencing. By the time they come out of it, they're healed. So you can go to a therapist and get this done.
Right.
Or as you move up in membership level, and I'm guided to take you through an Akashic record reading, you go through that, and it's the same result. By the time you're done with that, you're not afraid of that. That situation doesn't affect you anymore. It might not be a fear. Right. It might be something else. And we've had many individuals that have experienced that, and then their lives just improved dramatically.
Yes, I've had several myself.
Right? So that's why we named it Akashic Records, even though it's a story of so-called Mary Magdalene, because it tied in with what Jesus did. He accessed the Akashic Records. And we can do the same thing from here, access the records to help somebody find out why they're experiencing life now the way they are this time.
Yes, and
Right?
from there, we help them manifest their best life.
That's correct.
Remember to subscribe and like this video. Join the Facebook group 190 Vision to connect with others on the same journey. Get help by visiting our website 190vision.com. Support the 190 Vision mission by clicking on the donate button, which is at the bottom of each page of our website.